Bring up this 36 kilograms of mess that was just found at customs in Auckland, our international airport. So yeah, here we go. So let me just get this title up. Okay. So Auckland is our main entry into New Zealand, right? The airport there, it's an international airport. Anybody who basically comes into New Zealand goes there, unless they want to go to the South Island, which is in Christchurch and so on. But mainly, most people come into Auckland because Auckland's the sunny part of New Zealand. You know, it's like the North Island. So, you know, you basically, most people, there's more people from the South Pacific living in Auckland than actually in the South Pacific Islands, right? Because that's how, you know, and this is why like a lot of people are in a way not very happy about our unrestricted immigration, because, you know, in the early days, in the 80s, it was okay to have like open borders, you know, when it comes to like immigrants or migrants. However, now it's gotten to a point where you need to like kind of go, okay, there's enough of you here. We don't need more, because, you know, there's a lot. And it would be a good thing if you stayed in your own countries and helped your own countries, because what's happened is all the brains from the Pacific Islands have gone overseas, right? And a lot of them come into New Zealand and then they move over to Aussie. And when you take the brains away and then you only leave like the average people back in their country, they're easily influenced by people with brains. Or with what would you call that? Like yeah, intellectual people, right? Or people who are like a bit more legal minded, and so they get easily influenced by people from China with bribery. And so now the poor people that are left behind having their land sold off from under them because the smart people are already gone. We saw this happen in Fiji during George Speight coup, right? And we saw that happen during the 1980s. So the 2000s and then the 1980s, we had that with happen with Rabuka, who is actually a prime minister now. Weird, right? A guy who did who actually did a coup, which took a lot of the brains and smart and rich people away out of Fiji, and then 20 years later, another indigenous Fijian from Australia came in and did the same thing, and another lot of smart brain intellectual people with lots of money left, right? And this is what happens whenever you know, people try to topple countries. People with the brains will leave. And so this is what you're seeing in the Pacific, right? A lot of people with the brains and with you know, with talent and skill will leave, and they'll get hired by overseas people. We see a lot of that with like sports and so on. But not only that, but like IT, engineering, you know, they'll leave as well. And so you end up with just the average Joe Blow back in the islands, who are easily influenced by whatever the freaking prime minister says or the minister says, or, you know, whatever. And so that's been happening in the Pacific Islands. Now, let's have a look at this. That's a lot of kgs of meths. So this came in, I only found this about, was it yesterday or something? So this is on the 6th. So what are we? Today's the 7th. So yeah, yesterday. Okay, so Customs seizes 36 kilograms of meths in unaccompanied bags at Auckland airport. Right, officers seize over. Right, we just said from US flight. Now, I was watching a video while I was washing dishes just before we came on. Excuse me. Sprite, or was it lemonade? Watching a clip about tariffs in Canada, And the gentleman was basically talking about how like it's affecting, printing costs and sales and stuff like that because of 25% tariff that Trump's put, with his government has put on Canada, because how Canada has let drugs like meths and fentanyl come into America for years, right? Which has ruined American lives and killed a lot of them. Addiction and so on. And anything around drugs, there's always crime. Because when you're addicted, and I know people like that, locally who've, in like, here in New Zealand and been around them, and I'm like, yo, I want to stay the hell away from that. Who get addicted to this sort of stuff, and when their money runs out, they start stealing. Crime. When they they'll go rob someone, or if there's somebody in that house, they'll injure them to steal their money. Hey, where do you, right? And then people die, people get injured. So when you let that into somebody's country and you let it all for years and years, that exemplifies the damage and the pain on that country's people. And this is why the same thing with with the illegal migrants coming in from Mexico and also from Canada, right? People jumping on the ship, getting into Canada, using Canada to get through into thing, right? And the border patrol is just going, oh yeah, that's fine. So so if you're doing that in my country, I'm going to go F you. You're going to get tariffs. You're going to get whatever to stop you and get you into line to protect the border, so that my people in my country are not being affected by you. And this is what, and this is the thing here, right? So you got 36 kgs of street value of $13.5 million, right? Right? Causing 3 times, is that 3 times? Yeah, almost 3 times in harm, right? $37.9 million in harm. This is the fourth, right? This is the fourth major drug seizure at Auckland Airport in the past 3 months, right? And we just into the first week. Yeah, we're 7th today in New Zealand. So you guys are probably 6th if you're in the Northern Hemisphere, but today's the 7th. So yeah, first week of March, right? So it's only been like 2 months and a week, and we've already had 4 major, right, seizures of this magnitude. Right, so it's going here. Customs officers on a flight from the United States. 2 bags that arrived at Auckland Airport on Wednesday, March 5th, on a flight from LAX, and were referred to New Zealand Customs for further inspection. Now, imagine if that were in court. These 2 bags were in court. This would destroy so many lives in New Zealand. And this is why I don't give a F about what happens in Canada with the tariffs. I don't care about anywhere that's getting, like Mexico, where it's getting tariffs. As far as I'm concerned, if you're harming my country, then you pay. Right? So if Australia was doing that to New Zealand, I'll be saying the same thing. And if we were doing that to Australia, I'll be saying the same thing. Why the hell are you doing that? Strengthen your borders. So I'm glad that that our customs are onto it, because we're realizing that, hey, you're not going to be able to get into America now because of the tariffs and all that, and borders are tightening. Well, let's send it elsewhere. New Zealand and Australia and the Pacific Islands. And we saw a lot of that happening with the Chinese. We looked at that earlier last year when the Chinese were doing that in Fiji, right? Like totally, like imagine like a little island like Fiji. They're using Fiji as a drop, like a connecting thing, so that they bring it over onto the ships through the sea into Fiji, and then they'll get onto ships and bring it to Australia and New Zealand. So this one basically directly to us, right? So a search of both bags identified several plastic wrapped vacuum sealed parcels. A search of both bags identified several plastic wrapped vacuum sealed parcels Testing of a substance inside the parcel returned positive for meths. Right? Look at that, army bags. Three people were caught attempting. Okay, let's go back up. So here we go. Customs Auckland's airport manager Paul Williams said this was another good example of collaboration within the aviation sector to combat drug smuggling. Criminals are trying to get drugs through our airport in increasingly large volumes, but our intelligence and partnership networks are alert to their tactics. I actually looked at how they do this with the Mexican border. I have been doing this with the Mexican border and documentaries on it. Man, it's crazy, dude. Like, you cannot ever be anti border control after watching that. You'll be like, yeah, please, more border control. I've always been for border control for for New Zealand, for Fiji, for anyone, because you want to protect your country. You don't want the criminals getting this and then putting it out into the public, right? Into the community, and destroying lives, getting people addicted. First one's always free, like they say, right? And then you're addicted, then you're screwed. And I'm going to show you a next report about what happens on the street when this gets on the street. Okay, so I'll let you the text. Customs will continue to work across the industry to secure the supply chain. Our team will act swiftly to identify and stop risk as part of our focus of protecting the border. See, the criminals will go, oh, yeah, but it's not harming anybody, bro. We need the money. It helps the community. It doesn't help the community. What helps the community is education and jobs. Teaching your kids to stay the hell away from drugs. And I don't want to sound like a 90s freaking Nancy Reagan thing. Is it Nancy Reagan or was it somebody else? Don't do drugs. But the whole thing here is, if you really care about people, you will keep, if you care about your community, I should say, you would keep the shit out of your community. And if you still, and the only thing is, this is why I don't like gangs, because they're only, rather than working together to actually do better for their community and themselves, they just do crime. That's the way. That's the only thing they know. It's like, we'll just take cheap cuts. Yet they put their own families at risk. They've put their communities at risk because they want a quick buck and without doing the hard work. However, if they use the intelligence they have to actually do real work, and leave the crime life behind, they'll be so much successful and so safe for their own families and their communities. The methamphetamine is estimated to have a street value, as we said, causing 37.9 million in harm across New Zealand. Okay, this is the fourth one. We just said that in 3 months. Well, 2 months, really, in a week. 3 people were caught attempting to smuggle 10 million of meds in luggage in 2 separate cases, right? So 2 men, a 33-year-old and a 39-year-old, arrived in the country on a flight from Canada. Did we not just mention Canada? I didn't even know that was about Canada. Hello, Canada. See? So screw you, Canada. You let people come from your country with drugs into our country. So screw you. Screw your border. Screw your customs. And this is why I'm okay with Trump going, yeah, you guys have been screwing with us. And now Canada's screwing with us. So, screw you, Trudeau. So customs officers questioned them and searched their bags, finding 20.44 kgs. I don't know how much. Wait, hold on. How much is this in pounds for those, for our northern cousins? How much? In pounds, because I know you guys do the old matrix system. That's 45 pounds, right? So that's 45 pounds for you, northern cousins. That's how much these two guys brought of meths into our country from Canada. So yeah, so the borders kind of like it's been closed down for America. Oh yeah, let's go into Australia and Canada. I mean Australia and New Zealand now. Yeah, let's go ruin their people. So thank you, Canada. Your customs and your border control for opening your borders to New Zealand for drugs now. Thank you very much. That's a hell of a lot. Because I know, like, was it like a pound of butter is about this big for us New Zealand, right? So it's about 500 grams. So what is that? There's like a 40, could possibly be like, is that 40 of those, 45 of those? Just trying to figure out. It'll be like probably a 40-liter container, cubic container. Yeah, I'm just looking at these containers of Legos here. Yeah, that's crazy. And this is Canada doing it to a doing to a fellow ally, right? Oh yeah, let's just let these 10 kgs, 40 kgs, 20 kgs of drugs into their country. I'd be ashamed if our customs had allowed that to happen and we're like not checking. That's a lot. That's a lot to let go past, right? The bag tag was to the 49 linked to the bag tag was linked to the 39-year-old. And then you got the next day, a 59-year-old woman, a 59-year-old woman, unrelated to two men, arrived from Honolulu, U.S. and U.S. right? Oh, Canada. I mean Hawaii, right? Honolulu, Hawaii, U.S. Because it's a United States state, right? And officers who searched her bag found her clothing was stiff to the touch. Border testing showed meths had been soaked into the fabrics. On January 20, a 24-year-old American woman was caught trying to smuggle an estimated 31 kilos worth of meths. So what is 31 kilos? 50, if 20 is 40, so 30 would be 60 or something? No, that would triple that. No. So it'll be like 50 pounds, right? It'll be 50 pounds. These guys are not, they're basically trying to ruin a country with drugs, addiction, and crime. So they were in suitcases, right? 31 kilos. The seized meth equated to close to 1.6 million individual doses. Do you get that? That's a fifth of our country. Because we're about 5.5 million. It's about a fifth of our country. And that would go, that $11 million made from that would go to the criminals. And this is why I don't give a fuck about Canada. I don't give a fuck about Mexico, excuse my language. But seriously, I don't give a crap about your guys' tariffs and all that. Because you're basically, you got, especially with this from Canada, right? and America and Honolulu, right? These are coming from American and Canadian countries. If you people in your countries in Hawaii, America, LAX, right? LA, and Canada, Toronto, are willing to let drugs pass through your customs into our country, onto planes coming to our country, then you are basically an enemy of our country. Because that is saying that you are willing to put our nation at jeopardy at the hands of criminals and destroy the lives of our youth and young people, our women and children. And then that also means once they're addicted, they will go on to harm our women and children and elderly. Now, I want to bring this up. The Mongrel Mob is a Maori gang in New Zealand. Indigenous Maori run gang. One of the most brutal. All right. And this is what happened to this young 14-year-old girl. Let me get this link so I don't forget this later. I keep meaning to timestamp all the things, but I get distracted by all the work I got to do and I never get around to it. But they're there, so you guys can always, click on it and get, check it out for yourselves. Because all this channel is really about is like to make you aware and research for yourself, right? So let's look at this. This is from 5th, 3 days ago. 2 days ago? 7, 6, 5. Yeah, about 3 days ago. From New Zealand Herald, Belinda Feek reporting. Mongrel mob members Raumoko Taiapa Raniera Daniels Rongunui terrifying rape of teen girl. And our country is basically, we did a thing about this, about gang patches a little while back, last year, when they're bringing it to make it illegal to wear gang patches. See, the thing about gang patches, it's intimidation and as a branding for a crime thing. See, there was this thing about okay, it's the uniform of criminality. And so there's this thing about I'm not a hardcore what is it called, censorship person. I don't like censorship, but I'm also not 100% against all censorship either. There are certain things you gotta censor, right? According to what is there. So something like this, because look, it's got a SWAT sticker on it, right? So forth. So we know it's not it's aligned with some pretty dodgy stuff, right? Not to mention the fact it's a criminal gang. So the pair of Mongrel Mob gang members, appeared in the Hamilton District Court. Hamilton's about an hour and a half out of Auckland, going south. Auckland, as we talked about, is the main city and entry into airport into New Zealand, right? Almost like a second capital of New Zealand, capital being Wellington, which is where the Beehive is, which is the government building in Wellington, that is. All right. For sentencing on Tuesday by Judge Thomas Ingram, who said he couldn't imagine the terror the girl, that woman must have. She's not a woman, she's a 14-year-old girl. Child. A woman is over 18. We class it, as an 18-year-old, you have rights to be treated as an adult. This is a child, 14-year-old child. I hate it when these people do that. I really hate it when they try to muddy the waters by calling a child a woman. Because what that does, it puts into the minds, oh, well, she's a woman. She should be able to handle it. She's not. No, she's a 14-year-old girl. Warning. All right, hold on. We're getting some muddy waters here, so we got to put on this. Now that that's there, oops, let's do this. All right. Warning, this story contains details that may be distressing to for some readers. I think it's distressing to all of us when you find out what happened to this girl, especially if you're a normal human being and not a criminal, not a disgusting, despicable person like these two bastards. A teen girl, right? So look, the reporter is calling her a teen girl, but the justice is calling her a woman. A teen girl raped by two mongrel mob gang members was not respected as a human being throughout her terrifying ordeal. I'm just going to call it RT and RJ, all right? RT and RJ, who are both heavily tattooed, including on their photos, gave the 14-year-old no choice as they separately entered her motel room and subjected her to multiple indecencies before raping her. The pair arrived in Hamilton District Court for sentencing on Tuesday by Judge Thomas Ingram, who said he couldn't imagine the terror she must have felt that night. Which is weird because yeah, see, this is weird. Like here she goes, the terror that woman must have felt that night. And here, right, the terror she must have felt that night. So there's no woman there. It's like this sort of shit annoys me because, like I said, it muddies the water, right? When it comes to especially sex crimes or criminal things. Let me zoom in a bit more. All right, here we go. She was given no choice. She was not respected as a human being. So it's like you're paraphrasing, right? I mean, not cutting out, shorting. Type 36 and Daniels Ronganui 26 admitted charges of rape and sexual violation by unlawful sexual connection midway during their trial, but before the victim had to give evidence last month. Excuse me. And this is what I also don't like. Judge Ingram agreed to give them a 15% discount for the pleas as it saved the victim from having to relive our ordeal, along with 15% for background factors and drug addiction before jailing them. Oh, for fuck's sake. Can we not punish crime for crime? This is the other thing I'm saying, like our society is getting fucked up, is because now we're giving them leeway. Oh, we're going to give you less time because, you're going to agree to it. I'd be like we're going to give you more time if you don't plead guilty, mate. Because we know you're guilty, so it's up to you. And because you're addicted to drugs, I'm going to give you another 15 because you should have got clean by that. You shouldn't have done this. It's on you to behave like an animal, not on society. It's not society's fault that you're addicted to drugs or alcohol, whatever the fuck it is. Especially in this case, it's meths. It's not society's fault. It's not the government's fault. It's not your family's fault. It's your fault. Take responsibility for your own actions. Individual responsibilities. Why should society and the innocents have to put up with your shit? Because you won't control your own self. Which reminds me, we've got another terrible story after this as well. Yeah. before jailing them both for 9 years and 9 months. See, for me, like child abuse and stuff like that, which falls under for me. I'm all for wood chippers or life in prison. I think life in prison is pretty shit because like that means they got to live off taxpayers, society's earnings. They got to be housed. You know, their water bill, power bills all paid, and food bills all paid by society, right? For basically raping someone, a 14-year-old girl, a child. Tutu basically means mess around, by the way, for those who don't speak Maori or don't understand New Zealand indigenous language. So why do you have to mess with me, right? Is what she's trying to say here. Why do you have to tutu me? But in this case, it means worse, right? Why do you have to fuck with me? None of the men knew the victim, who was visiting Hamilton in October 2022, and of course, that's around just at the end of COVID. And Daniels turned up to the Ashwood Manor Motel and told the victim and her cousin that they were using the room and to go and clean it up. When inside, they told the victim's older cousin to go outside and to see if the police were coming. Weird. It was then Daniels asked the victim if she showered before one of the men pulled out a glass pipe. And this is how this all fucking ties in. With America and Canada and China bringing mess into our country, or the gangs cooking it up from the previous story. Pulled out a glass pipe and started smoking mess. And asked if she wanted some. The girl said no. And asked again by Daniels. She again said no. Before he said if she didn't have any, he would stab her in the face. Do you see why now I have no fucking sympathy for American customs or Chinese customs, or sorry, not Chinese, for Canadian customs or Hawaiian customs? Because those meths go straight into the hands of criminals and gangs, especially gangs, because they have all the connections, right, to go out there and sell it to the community. They then told her to get on the bed and take her pants off, but she refused. They then swore at her before the victim's nan came into the room. The grandmother, the nan is a grandmother, right? Shortly afterwards, the pair left, but Taipa returned about midnight and forced the girl to smoke cannabis. Right? So basically, nothing happened here because the grandmother came. So what I'm trying to piece this together as to who it is. So I think these people, like the cousin, right, the nan, I think they own the motel in Ashford, right? And that's why the nan was there. And the older cousin was there because she was visiting. This 14-year-old girl was visiting her family, her extended family, right? Where did we go? What did I miss? Oh, yeah, I went up. Hold on. Right, so Nan came into the room. So they basically took off, right, because her screams, because they started swearing with her. They're not going to be swearing quietly because they wanted to rape her, and she's like, no, take your pants off, no. So the Nan comes in. Shortly afterwards, the pair left, but Taipa, who's Taipa? He's the younger one, right? Where is he? On it. Yeah. Oh, sorry. Typer's the older one. So the older one returned, right? Where are we? Here we go. Yeah. So the older one, Typer, returned about midnight and forced the girl to smoke cannabis. Weed for you guys, on the street level. Typer then started talking about threesomes, but the girl said they don't do that stuff around here. Remember, the girl isn't giving this saying this. They're saying this in court. So the guy is saying that, right? Because he's giving evidence to himself, right? In court, because the girl isn't up. Because you know, because she so that she wouldn't go through this, he dropped. The judge said he would drop. You know, the years they would be in jail. The victim's cousin got up and went to the bathroom before Typer asked if he could sexually assault her. She said no before saying, "Why do you have to tutu me? I'm only 14. Do you know how old you are?" He's 36 years old, and she's only a 14-year-old girl. She started to move away from him, and she said, "If you," and she, sorry, she started to move away from him, and he said, "If you wouldn't let him, he would stab both of them." That's the 14-year-old girl and her cousin. When he was about to rape her, the victim said she was a virgin, and he replied, "Yeah, all good." And as she protested, he said, "Fuck up, you dirty bitch." After an approximate 2-hour ordeal, 36-year-old Typer left. But about 4 a.m., Daniels turned up and also raped her before leaving about 20 minutes later. Do you get what's happening here? Two Maori gang members raped another Maori girl, 14-year-old, with the threat that if they didn't rape her, they would, the 36-year-old would kill both of them, her and her cousin. And then he went away after raping her for 2 hours, told his mate, Daniels, 26-year-old, who then turned up and said, hey, bro, go and have a good time. I already done it. I softened her up for you, mate. Go take your turn. She won't resist now because she's already been fucked up. She doesn't want to say no now, mate. So Daniels turns up, the 26-year-old, and rapes her for 20 minutes. And this is why I always like to say about how when you fuck with kids, you fuck their whole entire life, not just at one time. And this is why wood chippers are good. And I pray, and I'm not a praying person, but I hope that when the inmates in jail find out about what these two did, that they don't last long. There's my hope and my expectation. And this is, my dear friends, why, I have no love for, soft borders, for letting drugs and methamphetamine into our country. And why I have no soft spot or no percentages given, for telling the truth. I rather you get fined more for not telling the truth, or spend more time in jail for not telling the truth. And this is the next part. There's going to be lifelong issues for her, and that's what happens. Violence and sex crimes are lifelong. She went through 2 hours and 20 minutes of torture and hell, all the while thinking that she's going to get murdered and her cousin's going to get murdered unless she lets them do this to her. In a discussion about jail starting point with Taipa's counsel, Fraser King, Judge Ingram said, there is going to be a lifelong trust issues for her with all men. And it's true. I have been around rape victims who have had this problem. A lot of lesbians, a high percentage of them have been raped, which is why they become lesbian. Not all, but high percentage. You ask them, what made you, decide to, be into same sex, and they'll tell you. And then it's the same with gay guys, right? They'll tell you, well, why are you gay? And they'll say, like, well, because of females. Same deal. King tried to urge the judge to go, yeah, look at this asshole here. That's the rapist counsel, Fraser King. I wonder how he would feel if that was his niece, daughter, extended family member, and this happened to her. Would he urge the judge to go with a 9-year start point plus an extra year for second charge? I know if I was there, I would be like, yeah, judge, they're guilty, so do whatever the fuck you want. But then again, I mean, the defense, right? I'll be like, just throw the book at them. But yeah, at this point, at this point, I couldn't care what the hell happened to these two assholes. And by the way, this is the gang culture. Any gang culture. Remember when, a lot of people poo-poo Trump and all, MS-13 and all these people. I've actually looked at that shit about maybe 3-4 years ago about all this stuff, MS-13, whatever it's called, and what they do to people. And I think a lot of people don't really understand the reality of this sort of culture, the gang culture and stuff, because they've never been around it. I've been around people in gangs, but I've never seen it firsthand. But I understand it now because I've read enough and I've looked into enough cases and watched enough documentaries to know about that, right? What happens. I think it's lazy when people, it's only lazy people who don't know that and then speak on the side of oh, but it's because they're poor, it's because of society. So it's a choice to be in a gang. It's a choice to do meths. It's a choice to become an alcoholic, right? It's a choice to be addicted. It's a choice to do crime. To put your life above anybody else's life. It's your choice. Individual choice. So you can read the rest there. I think these guys should have been wood chipped.
Calm your nips. We're still besties, yeah? I think I deserve a little more faith than this.